Let's go to the point where I was talking about at the beginning of the show, and I did tell people to wait. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go and try to find the very beginning. We had Fred the Veteran drop his 10-2 prediction and making the playoffs. This is the time of the show. We'll call it fan interaction time. You guys on Twitter, you guys can get on this as well. Go ahead and leave a comment. What is USC? This is time to get off the fence. We've kind of waited. We're not really going to get a lot of information in this last week. We kind of know. We pretty much know the starting lineup, right? At this point, we pretty much know what depth we have. There's going to be some presents unwrapped, I'm sure, throughout the first half and into the second half of the LSU game. We're going to see some stuff. We're going to see how well this team is able to run with this new lens system with all the shiny pieces. So go ahead and make that prediction now. It would be, I want to see it. We have 278 of you. The majority are here in, majority are on Twitter. But those of you guys that are here in the chat, go ahead and drop it. What is your prediction? So we got the Michigan camp. Ralph's going, although Ralph does like USC. He's a Michigan fan, but we'll take the 9-3. That was my original that I had in the early on in the spring. Trojan fans, go ahead and drop it in here. Let me know, what do you think the USC final regular season record will be? How will they go? We got Robbie going out on a limb, and then we're going to go like the 1972 Trojans, and we're going to beat the snot out of everybody in every single game. 72 squad littered with NFL talent that was just gaudy. Gabe is staying with that 9-3. We got Ferris. You guys got to check his workout over on the Michigan channel. He's going with 8-4. Again, all legitimate. Now, is that 8 win? Is one of those against the Wolverines? You got to let me know, Ferris. You have the Trojans as one of those 8 wins in Ann Arbor in week 3. Jeff Rodriguez has us at 10-2. I'll call up with you 1 second. Hold on a second. 10-2. Barry Fisher, 10-2. So I'll do mine. I was 9-3. And my 9-3 was, if you guys remember what I was saying, is I thought we would get caught up late in the season. But if you've been listening, I've been telling you that I think that Miller's just going to get better every single game. And the guys in the defense are going to install more and more wrinkles to this defense. I believe they're going to gel as a unit more and more. I think they might have some hang-ups early on in the season, but I do think by mid-season, this team is purring. And I do think now that we have the size and the depth to give guys those breaks that they're going to need to be healthy and fresh late into the season. We're not talking about the full 16 playoff length. I'm just talking about the first 12 games of the season. I'm a lot more bullish on our young backups. So I am upgrading to 10-2, and I'm going to stick my 10-2. I think that where we were going to have some trouble. We have to name the 2 teams. If you want to be really brave, name the 2 teams that I think we're going to lose. I'm going to go really, really, really chalk when I say this. And I think, like Matt, I think that if we're going to lose 2 games, the most likely games we're going to lose are going to be to Michigan in Ann Arbor and then Notre Dame at home. That's what I'm feeling. But here's the caveat with that. We play well against Notre Dame at home. They're having some issues on the offensive line. I like that. And by the end of the season, I think our pass rush is going to be purring. And unless they can get some young freshman to step up and help them out at the tackle position, that might be a huge mismatch we may be able to return the favor of what we saw in South Bend last year with a relentless pass rush, giving their quarterback fits and our secondary eating like their secondary ate last year. So maybe a reversal of fortune. Am I getting close before the end of the season, the beginning of the season, to go to 11-1, Matt? Dare I even think about it? Right now, we're going to hit the brakes. We're going to stay at 10-2. And I'm going to stick with that because I do think
I will sign up the dotted line for 10-2.
It's going to be a big ask. This is a veteran defense. It's going to be a raucous crowd. It's not just being in Michigan Stadium at the Big House. This is going to be an event. Because as much as the Michigan fans are going to tell you that who's USC, what's USC, no. if you're over 15, 20 years old, you know what USC has been to Michigan. That's a pain in their ass. Now, Matt, what is your prediction for the season?
Yeah, 9-3. I think that Notre Dame and Michigan are the two most likely losses. But I mean, like, they're winnable games, but I think they're the two most likely losses. And then I think depth gets them at some point.
Yeah,
now, which point, I'm not sure. Could be Penn State, could be Washington, could be that Maryland trap game that we've mentioned. I just think the depth probably shows up in a negative way at some point. But 10-2 is very attainable, and if we do that, we are headed to the playoff.
And that's been my sticking point. I mean, I'm being positive in what I'm saying, but I'm not just saying that. I do believe that they have addressed some of those issues. I do think, although that it's young and unproven, I'm getting a vibe that at the very least we have guys that look the part. There's always that we got to see it on the field, but I do have a lot of faith in the development of this coaching staff. And when we're talking about the team fading, let's say later in the season, I think by then a lot of these younger guys are going to have a lot of experience in these guys playing together, and that development piece is what we think it is. I think that we're not talking about winning national championships. We're talking about 10-2 and getting to the playoffs. And I think that this new depth can provide that for USC. Either one of you, feel free to fill in. It's getting late, you guys. I mean, I gotta be honest. I've been on here for 3 hours. I'm trying to be a trooper. We're almost at that third hour, but if I got to carry the whole conversation the whole time, I'm gonna call it a night because we got about 2 minutes left. Any last thoughts, either one of you guys?
Well, since I called in, I might as well put in my 2 cents, so I could at least have my 2 cents worth. This season is going to be quite interesting. I think the biggest game of attrition for USC will be Michigan, because Michigan gets a new DC and he's out of the tree of John Harbaugh, just like Coach Lynn. And so I imagine their defense will be well prepared and similarly designed as to what Lynn does, but not exactly. And so it's going to come down to who has the better offense. And right now, if it was Michigan's offense from last year, I'd give that nod to Michigan. But because it's not, and it's Lincoln Riley and his offenses have always been good, I give the nod to USC to take this victory out of Ann Arbor. But it's going to be a dogfight. I don't think they're just going to come out and blow out Michigan by any stretch of the imagination. They know what they're doing. They know how to stop a good offense. But my feeling still is for some reason I see USC being a dark horse and somehow pulling out 12 wins still. I just don't see how it's not possible. Is it overly optimistic? Probably. But I trust the coaching staff that they know what they're doing. They're putting together a good team, and you're witnessing it that live, Tim, when you go to some of the practices. And Riley's made some really good points that right now his defenses are winning the practices. And if you look at last season and the season before, it's always the offense that's doing better. Defense has improved, but it's always offense winning. But now his language has changed to the defense is winning. And that's, as a USC fan, that should be encouraging for any of us. Like, okay, now the defense is actually winning in practice, not just simply showing up and being a body to get a hit. So I think for Miller Moss, I think what needs to happen is Riley needs to keep his mind within the simplicity of the game. I don't mind big plays, but whoever they play, Miller has to take what the defense gives him and let the receivers do their job. That's what they did to Louisville, and Louisville got destroyed because of it. And so those are just my few thoughts on all that.
I agree with every one of your points. I like it. You have a good, I'll say it again. I'm saying 10-2 because I'm just trying to figure out, this is college football, and I've seen great Trojan teams lose games in a 12-team, 11-team or 11-game or a 12-team season. God, I can't even talk. 12-game season. That's gonna happen. So I'm trying to really kind of look at the season. I'll say it again. There is no team on this schedule that USC is not capable of beating if they're playing their A game. So when I say two losses,
and
I'm not chalking them up. In some seasons where you go up, or some teams you might go up against, you say, that's a loss, win. That's a 50-50. That's a win. That's a loss. I go through the schedule and I don't go, that's a loss. Now, come talk to me in the third quarter of the LSU game. Come talk to me at halftime or after the game in Ann Arbor. I might feel differently about this team, but what I know about Lincoln Riley, whatever these guys over at ESPN want to say, and the guy is a great coach. The guy is an elite play caller. We have skill guys that are going to make some amazing plays. We've got proven linemen that on the offensive side, and then we got some question marks. Those question marks give Miller a clean pocket. That question mark goes away, and then there's nobody on their team, on their schedule that is an automatic L. They're gonna, but against some of these teams, because of the schedule, Penn State, Michigan, Notre Dame, I mean, even the other games that everyone's overlooking, Nebraska, I mean, USC is a big favorite in that game according to the FPI, whatever it is. But I'm telling you, SC could also be beaten by a lot of these teams on this schedule if they don't play well. If they put in a clunker of performance, they absolutely could lose this game. So predictions are fun, and that's why coaches say, because it is so true, that is one game at a time. Because you get caught looking ahead. You just don't know what's going to happen. So there's a reason. It's not just a cliche. They don't just say that for a reason. You can't overlook anybody, but there is nobody on the schedule that USC is not capable of beating if they're hitting on all cylinders. So great call. Appreciate you being here.
Just then keeping their. But I do have a quick question for you, Chin, just to kind of close out.
Yeah.
Are you concerned for depth? And it's referencing to depth. Are you concerned in depth as far as bodies, or in depth as far as experience? Because they should have a depth as far as bodies, but I can imagine them having not depth in experience. So I just wanted some little clarification of what you mean by depth.
But there's clearly
to mount up.
There's clearly that's been my point, and that's why I was saying 9-3 early on, because the depth that USC is going to rely on is going to be young or unproven depth that are going to need to step up and show what we believe they're capable of, and they have the ability to. And again, I absolutely believe in this coaching staff and the development. So it is that maturity level and how quickly they get up. Because if you were listening earlier, I said you can be 6 foot, for instance, you can be 6'6", 325, but how are you going to look on the line? How are you going to play on the line? So.
Exactly.
You could have the size. That's great. I mean, all the numbers are great, but how well do you carry that weight? How well do you play with the guy next to you? There's just so much that goes into it. Are you playing with injuries? There's a lot that goes into it. So it's both, really, I guess is the best way to say it.
College football is even more exciting with some action on the line. And the games are even better when you're cashing in. And the Voice of College Football is the place to be to get the greatest value. Let's start with my picks. 75% against the money line, 58% against the spread. I've got a 40-year track record. In fact, in 2023, at $100 played per game, you would have netted over $9,300. And guess what? I'm just the warm-up act. Steve Merrill, our ace in the hole, show stopper from Wager Talk. 6 years with the Voice of College Football, over 30 years in the industry. Steve gives us analysis on all the big games, but you can't miss Steve's weekly under-the-radar pick, which went 21-5 against the spread the last 2 seasons. I repeat, 21-5 against the spread. You also get picks from some of our top analysts here at the Voice of College Football, including Steve Dace and Matt Zemek. Become a YouTube channel member or Patreon member for just $99 per month. Go to the main channel on YouTube, click join, and select the betting tier. Do the same thing on Patreon. Make 2024 a winner now.